welcome to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mideles, and I'm your host here in Harlingen, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley of Deep South Texas. Got a great program lined up for you today. Our El Paso correspondent, Julian Resendiz, is going to be leading a discussion with El Paso County Commissioner David Stout, so we're looking forward to that in just a little bit. But as always, let's go ahead and see what's trending across the border, starting in Los Angeles, where Los Angeles County officials will vote today on whether to declare a state of emergency over the issue of immigration. Now, if the vote is approved, it would give the county power to provide assistance for residents they say have suffered financially from ongoing federal immigration raids. The move would allow the LA County Board of Supervisors to provide rent relief for tenants who have fallen behind as a result of the crackdown on immigrants. Opponents argue that the raids do not meet the criteria of an emergency and that it could be unfair to landlords. Also happening, President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown has brought to light a political polarization among states. Many Republican-led states seeking to help his efforts, and many Democratic-led states enacting laws that resist his immigration agenda. Now, across the country, lawmakers have passed more than 100 bills relating to immigration. This is according to the Associated Press that has been tracking these kinds of bills. The legislation is divided almost evenly between both political parties. California has passed 4 bills, the greatest number of immigration-related measures, nearly all of them favorable to immigrants. They include limiting immigration enforcement in public schools and limiting what healthcare facilities can disclose regarding the immigration status of parents. Colorado's Senate Bill 276 prohibits public child care centers, schools, colleges, healthcare facilities, and libraries from collecting information about people's immigration status. And in Connecticut, Illinois, and Maryland, they have all passed legislation limiting the interaction with immigration officials at public schools, while Oregon and Rhode Island now have laws that prohibit landlords from inquiring about a tenant's immigration status. Time now to bring in our El Paso correspondent, Julian Resendiz, along with his guest for today's program, Commissioner David Stout, Precinct 3 Commissioner in El Paso. Did I get that right, Commissioner? 2. Got it. Julian?
Yes, Rudy. As you know, we have three big topics that we cover here on the border. One, obviously, is immigration. The other topic is law enforcement, crime, and all that. And the third big topic, and the reason I invited Mr. Stout today, is commerce, trade. The border is the lifeline of commerce between Mexico and the United States. Billions of dollars in commerce pass through our ports of entry, be it bridges or land crossings, every year. And all the stuff that is manufactured in Mexican maquilas and eventually goes to the automakers in Detroit, to the factories in the Rust Belt and the Midwest, passes through here. So what we have an emergency situation coming up very shortly, excuse me. And that is that one of our principal ports of entry that handles commerce here in El Paso is very likely going to be closed for a matter of years because of a modernization, because of improvements. And the big question is, where are all those trucks? And we're talking about 130,000 to 135,000 bringing in vital parts in commerce from and products from Mexico into the U.S. Where are those trucks gonna be coming through? So Mr. Stout, Commissioner Stout, has been a long-time promoter of what we used to know as a rural type of port of entry in Far East El Paso County. It's called the Marcelino Serna Port of Entry, popularly known as a Tornillo Port of Entry. And that is seen right now as the key to accommodate those 130,000 trucks that all of a sudden are not going to be able to pass through the Bridge of Americas in central El Paso. Now, Mr. Stout, I've been covering the port of entry out there in Tornillo for a couple of years now, and it's kind of like ironic, but it's a good twist of fate that when I started covering the port, the issue was that CBP was considering maybe no longer allowing commercial trucks because of lack of use. But that has changed in the past few months, and it's about to drastically change. Can you talk to us about the efforts that the county and yourself have undertaken to offer up this port of entry as a solution to what could be a looming commercial truck crisis.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for inviting me to join y'all. First of all, glad to be here. Um, this project has been something that has been many years in the making. I think even before I was around, this project started, and our side of the bridge was actually finished in 2016. In my second year in office, it was about $133 million project, and the county was expected to be bringing in about $20 million in toll revenue. But when we finished our side of the bridge, the mobility authority who was working on the project came to us and said, look, there is no infrastructure on the Mexican side to bring heavy truck traffic to this bridge. And so there is no way you're going to make enough to pay the attendants at the toll booths. And so it is now an untolled bridge. And so fast forward to 2023, the Mexican side was finally able to construct a relief route around Ciudad Juarez, over there on the Mexican side, basically coming straight from the highway that goes to Chihuahua to the Tornillo port of entry, and that became operational in 2023. So, we've been waiting for a number of years for that infrastructure to be there, and now that it's there, we have been really trying to make sure that people are aware that this option is available. And as you said, Mr. Resendiz, just so happens that the federal government has decided to do this modernization project on the Bridge of the Americas. Truck traffic will be, as far as I know, indefinitely taken off of that bridge. And so I think the timing is perfect for us to be able to try to push the traffic to the Tornillo port of entry. It's about 117 acres of land. It's one of the largest international border crossings on the southern border. I think in 2024, there was about 21,000 truck crossings, which is really very little in comparison to some of the other bridges in the area, like Isleta Zaragoza and the Bridge of the Americas that have hundreds of thousands of crossings a year. But the idea is to bring that level of crossings up, and so we are doing this study. We're investing more than $2 million to look at strategies on how we can boost the traffic to the Tornillo port of entry, especially taking into account that they will no longer be able to come across the Bridge of the Americas. The study will map the origins of different cargo destinations, frequency, and distance, fuel usage, and the time that it takes to cross the other ports, and so that we can understand here at the county how the Tornillo Guadalupe bridge is going to be able to fill any gaps or niche markets while offering an alternative to the other crossings like the Bridge of the Americas. And so we're also doing a pretty robust public outreach campaign, especially in Mexico, in the interior parts of Mexico. We have gone to Mexico City, we've gone to Torreon, we've gone to Aguascalientes, to Querétaro, many of the manufacturing hubs within Mexico that do send products across the border. I think it's really also poignant that right now that there's lots of what we call nearshoring happening, right? Lots of companies are bringing their production and their facilities back to the Americas, back to North America, back to Mexico, and to the United States and Canada. And so we want to be ready to be able to handle that increase as well. In addition to that, there is another round of negotiations with the USMCA, the trade agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. And so, I think it's the perfect time to be trying to talk about the Marcelino Serna port of entry and just letting people know that it exists.
Right. I covered both sides of the border, and one thing that we know is that in addition to offering an alternative, it is good to get heavy trucks, sometimes with cargo that could be considered hazardous, to altogether skip the urban area, in this case, Ciudad Juarez. So if trucks are coming from Querétaro, from San Luis, from Zacatecas, they can take this route and altogether avoid passing through urban areas in Ciudad Juarez and go straight to this port of entry in Tornillo. So it seems that
Right.
half the battle is won right there. But the other battle, what I'm hearing from Mexican sources, is that yeah, we can cross our stuff wherever you tell us, but how are we going to get the trucks from East Central Juarez all the way to the Far East? I think they're talking in Juarez proper, in the plants that are based in the city of Juarez, about building roads that can sustain heavy traffic leading from the central part of the city to the Far East. Are you in touch with Mexican officials? How is that coming along?
Yeah, I have definitely heard conversations regarding that. I think many people that I have spoken to feel that there is a need for that. It's something that we have been also advocating for because you're absolutely right. There are a lot of operations on the western side of the city or the central areas of the city in Juarez that could benefit from using the Tornillo port of entry once the Bridge of the Americas is closed down, but there is no infrastructure. They would either have to go back down south and then come around, or go through the city, which could be, as you were saying, difficult to say the least. So we're going to continue to advocate for that. I think a lot, again, the majority of our efforts when it comes to the public outreach has been Chihuahua South, right, or south of Ciudad Juarez, because we know that those operations can definitely have an easier time just diverting their traffic around to the Tornillo port of entry if they're coming up from Chihuahua on Highway 45. And it is one of the most, I think it's one of the safest highways from what I've been told in Mexico. I know that that's another issue that people have worried about is safety, but the way that they built this highway, it's elevated. It has very, very few entrance and exit points, so it makes it hard for nefarious characters to get on the highway to try to assault people if that's what people are worried about. There's security cameras, and they also have their own private security force that is patrolling the highway there between Highway 45 and the Tornillo port of entry. So, it's I think a great opportunity for us. It's a great opportunity for some of these transportation companies, maquilas, to possibly even save time and money. I think that's one of the other things that we're going to be looking at showing is that this is going to be, I think, a very economically viable option as well for these folks.
We're speaking with El Paso County Commissioner for Precinct 2, Mr. David Stout, and we're going to continue the conversation after a quick break. Border Report Live is back in 1 minute. Welcome back to Border Report Live. Rudy Mireles here in Harlingen. Time now to bring in our El Paso correspondent, Julian Resendiz, along with El Paso County Commissioner, Mr. David Stout.
Commissioner, I'm glad that you addressed the security situation, because that's one of the last 2 points I wanted to address regarding this enormous opportunity to use this underutilized border crossing. And that is, like I said, we also cover border security. We covered maybe a couple of years ago an incident involving a shooting and stuff, in which there were some casualties. But I will coincide with you that ever since there, we've had no major security incidents on that road that leads to the port of entry. I do remember you talking about the security guards that are now patrolling the road, helping the Mexican authorities ensure safety, providing some added safety. So, can you tell trucking companies, can you tell people in Mexico that it is definitely safe to use the road that leads to the port of entry in Tornillo, Texas?
No, that I have been told that this is one of the safest, if not the safest, highway in the country of Mexico. It is so well built. It is so well taken care of. I mean, as you said, there's a private security company as well as Mexican authorities that are patrolling this area. Again, the security cameras, I think, are really important, and it's it's a fast trip too. I did this recently. I went down to Chihuahua a couple of months ago to talk to people about the port of entry, and and we drove out to Tornillo and went down and across the bridge, and we took this highway, and it's a beautiful highway. Of course, it's brand new, but I obviously had no problems, and I have not heard reports of any major problems at all in almost since this highway became operational back in 2023. So I think it's safe to say, I think it's safe to tell individuals who may be wanting to utilize this route that they should have no problem with security.
Fair enough. One final point I wanted to make before turning it over back to you, Commissioner, and that is that I see a lot of opportunity for the community surrounding the Tornillo area. And I say this because I tracked another port of entry in the region for a long, long time, and that is the Santa Teresa port of entry. I remember that it was also underutilized, but a couple of decades later, with a lot of attention, a lot of investment, it is now one of the state of New Mexico's principal economic engines. Do you foresee something similar eventually taking place in Tornillo, especially being the closest to the connection between El Paso, I-10, and the major cities of Texas?
Yeah, it seems to me that when you build out these types of infrastructure projects, development ensues, right? And so I would expect that in the future you would see construction of warehousing and other facilities within the vicinity of the Tornillo Guadalupe port of entry. And I know that there are some people that live out in that area that are worried about that, because it's a very agricultural and a very rural area, and there are folks that would like to keep it that way. So we're going to have to find a balance, hopefully. It's very difficult for counties in the state of Texas to regulate zoning. We have tried in the past, actually, a number of years ago, to pass a law in the state legislature that would give the county of El Paso zoning authority within a mile of the highway that takes traffic from the Tornillo port of entry to I-10. Unfortunately, that was not successful, but we're going to continue, I think, to try to work those issues out. But yes, I would expect that there would be further development in the area moving into the future. We are now kind of finally looking at all of the ports of entry in this area as one system, and really trying to identify the best way to utilize each of the ports of entry. There's 6 of them within the Paso del Norte region. You have Santa Teresa, San Jeronimo in New Mexico, as you mentioned. We have 2 downtown bridges. We have the Bridge of the Americas, Zaragoza, Isleta, and Tornillo. And so, I think if we want to be as prosperous as possible and get as much commerce across it and as quickly as possible, and people as well, because bringing people across is something that's very important. They have a huge impact on our local tax base with sales tax, hotel occupancy tax, and other types of local taxes. But I think the idea for us, especially knowing that the traffic is going to increase in the future, is to make sure that things are as smooth as possible and that we are not hindering cross-border commerce, cross-border trade, and crossings, so that we can really capitalize on the income that would be brought into our community because of that.
Yeah, speaking of the future, and to close out this discussion, right now, border industry or industry throughout the U.S. and Mexico are going through turbulent times with the tariffs and what have you. But if we speak about the long term, I mean, border trade has seen ups and downs. What do you see for border trade in the long term, in our region and all along the border?
Every time that I hear this topic being discussed, in different meetings that have to do with border commerce and trade, all signs point to it increasing, and very, very heavily within the next couple of decades. Especially, again, as I mentioned, I think really early on during the interview, the phenomenon of nearshoring, of bringing operations back to North America from Asia, because of the proximity and just bottom line makes sense, right? So we're gonna be seeing a lot more cross-border commerce. And again, we're about to see new negotiations regarding the trade agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the United States, which will hopefully, be beneficial to the conversations that we're having here. And it's good for our communities to be able to see more of this type of trade. I do wish that we could gear more towards manners to cross commerce that are not as impactful to our environment. Of course, truck traffic is very it contaminates, it pollutes quite a bit. This is actually one of the reasons why I was one of the strongest proponents of taking the truck traffic off of the Bridge of the Americas that my district encompasses, and because it's the only port of entry that actually basically comes out into a neighborhood where people live. There are schools right next to the Bridge of the Americas. There are neighborhoods, and actually the county is undergoing a health impact study. We're working with UTEP that I have no doubts will show that people are getting sick in these neighborhoods that are close to the ports of entry because of the contamination that is being put off by the trucks. And so I really hope that in the future, as we work towards this system, and as we continue to talk about how to get trade across more efficiently and more effectively, we talk about the environmental impacts as well, and using shuttles or trains instead of so many trucks. But those are conversations that we're still having, and of course will continue to go on for years as long as this is taking place.
Commissioner Stout, it's been a pleasure having you on our show discussing a local issue that has international impact in the commerce between the U.S. and Mexico. Hopefully we can have you back in the show in the future talking about your other role, which is as a high-ranking officer of the National Association of Counties.
Yep, I'd love to come back and talk to you about that too. It's a great organization to be a part of, and I've been really proud to represent El Paso in the state of Texas at the National Association of Counties. And you all know I'm ready to talk whenever y'all are ready to talk. I'm happy to do it.
Appreciate you being here, Commissioner. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you both.
All right. Well, we got a little bit more to go, so Border Report Live will be back in 1 minute. And welcome back to Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mireles, and I'm your host here in Harlingen, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley of deep South Texas. Now, the government shutdown is now in week 3, which means no pay for more than 1.6 million federal workers. Now, we know the Trump administration has directed both the DOD and DHS to make sure military members and Coast Guard members get paid. And as we learned on Monday, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said that they have found money to pay Coast Guard members as well. And as we know, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says that they've found some funding as well to get military members paid. But that is not where it ends necessarily, right? So what about the others? Well, our Salvador Rivera spoke to several Border Patrol agents who've been working with no pay.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection employs about 60,000 agents and officers who, as of last week, are also not getting paid because of the government shutdown. The budgetary dark clouds in Washington are now looming over U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The government shutdown is affecting the men and women who patrol our borders and ports of entry. As of last week, CBP agents and officers are not getting paid for their work. Washington has been locked in a stalemate between Republicans and Democrats over the budget for the new fiscal year, which began October 1st. Thousands of federal employees have been furloughed, but members of the military and CBP remain on the job. Over the weekend, President Trump said his administration would do everything it can to find the money to pay those in uniform, but there was no mention of compensation for Border Patrol agents or customs officers. Off camera, two agents said they aren't worried about their salaries eventually getting paid. They did say they are concerned with making car payments, club soccer fees, and other bills if the government shutdown goes on much longer.
That was Salvador Rivera reporting. You can catch more on that reporting and Julian's and South Texas correspondent Sandra Sanchez's reporting on borderreport.com. Check it out. Have a good day.